Hi, I'm Aaron Suttles, Director of Content for Yay, Alabama, and we're back for another edition of Half Hour Huddle this week. We got one of the most popular players of the 2023 Crimson Tide joining us, Mr. Will Reichard. He'll join us here in just a second. But, man, what a blessing this week is. Obviously, I hope everyone who's watching this is thankful for all the blessings that they have in their life and the people in their life. And this is a week where we recognize that, tomorrow being Thanksgiving. I hope we eat ourselves silly, and I hope you watch some good football and spend time with those that you care about the most. And so with that, just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving out there, and I know I will be having a Thanksgiving with my family. We got a couple announcements today. If you're plugged into our social channels, which you should be, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, you will notice that we launched a big giveaway. We're calling it the Holidays giveaway. Get it? Obviously, pun intended there with Yay, Alabama. But if you haven't checked it out, it's on our social medias, and we're going to show it to you right now. It's what we're doing is if you sign up, obviously you're here. Hopefully you have signed up. If you haven't, you have a chance to sign up and win some really awesome prizes. And we're not going to list everything that we got planned, but you can see on that graphic we got some good ones. We got an autographed basketball by Nate Oates, men's basketball coach. We got an autographed football from Coach Saban. You see those two chairs there? That means that you'd be sitting courtside in Coleman Coliseum for one of the men's basketball games. So if you've been on the fence about joining Yay, Alabama, this is the kind of stuff that you can come to expect going forward. We're about giving experiences to our members, to giving content to our members that you're not going to get anywhere else, including an event like today with Half Hour Huddle, where you get to interact with the student athletes that make the University of Alabama a really special place. So, and you giving to NIL is helping their quality of life, and it's helping attract great talent and keep great talent at the university and the athletic department. So please consider a membership and tell your friends. If you refer a member, you get an extra entry into to winning some of these prizes. So it's not just one day. We're going to be releasing a prize a day. So you got up until December 17th. This is going to drop on Friday, on Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving. So that's when this will start, when you can expect the first prize to be announced. And then every day there will be a different prize up until December 17th. So like I said, if you've been considering a membership or you're wondering what Yay, Alabama is about, this is what we're about. We're about giving experiences to our members, giving access to our members, to the phenomenal student athletes at the University of Alabama, and this is how you help them. You help them by donating to the NIL. 100% of every penny that comes into Yay, Alabama goes to the student athletes. There's no administrative cost to me or to run a website. It is all going to the student athletes, and that's where we want to be completely transparent in helping our student athletes, and this is how you can do that. So go on our social media channels and share this, get the word out to as many people as possible, because I know there are people that want a Nick Saban autographed football. Heck, I want one. I know people want a Nate Oates basketball or to sit courtside. So see, these are some of the experiences that you're going to get with Yay, Alabama. So make sure we're getting the word out there to as many people as possible. This is a special week too, because it's the Iron Bowl. I don't have to tell you what that means in this state. It's something you grow up as a kid. If you grew up in this state, you chose a side. And if your team won, that following Monday at school is pretty fun. If your team lost, you knew what you're gonna what you were in for, and that you knew it was not going to be a fun day the next week with your other friends. So that's what the Iron Bowl is, and we're lucky enough that another one has rolled around that we're here to witness. And with that, we want to bring in Alabama kicker Will Reichard, who's closing in on so many different records and already set so many records, but he's closing in on a big one. We'll talk about that. But Will, I want to thank you for your time specifically this week with Thanksgiving tomorrow and with your attention focused on the Iron Bowl. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So let me ask this right out of the gate. What's this year been like for you? Because you've obviously done a lot of things in this program, but the year started where you didn't miss a kick for games and games and games. But and then on top of that, it just seems like every week you're either getting close to a record or you're setting a record. Has it been a special year for you?
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. I came into this year, obviously coming back, super excited that I was going to have a chance to play here for another year to be with my teammates. And kind of every week has been a little bit different. Like last week, when I did media after the game, one of the reporters was like, "Hey, by the way, did you know that you broke another record this week for most 50-yard field goals in Alabama history?" And I was like, "No, I didn't really know that." So it's been kind of a whirlwind a little bit, but it's been super fun to kind of continue to have success. And hopefully we can continue that as a team this weekend and going forward.
You seem to handle it with a lot of you're humble about it, but do you ever in private moments do you get excited about it? Is it something that you sit back and think about? Not only all the players that have played at Alabama and the SEC, but some of the great players that have played before you that you've kind of put your name up there.
I mean, a little bit, but at the same time, when I'm at a school for now, I mean, I know my freshman year I only played in a handful of games, but being able to play four full seasons with the great offense that we've had since I've been here, it's kind of put me in really good positions to put up those kind of points. Just because we've scored so much the last 4 years that I've been here, and our offense has been really good at scoring touchdowns and really good at getting me in field goal range. We haven't really punted that much since I've been here compared to other schools. So they've really put me in a good spot too to be able to do these kinds of things as well.
If you have a question for Will, under the video there, you'll see a button that you can comment. You can get your question in now, but we've also had some questions that have been pre-submitted from our members. Let's go to the first one here, and this one's coming from Jimmy. He wants to know, how did you get into kicking? Did you play soccer?
So I grew up playing soccer. I played t-ball, I played basketball, and then when I got into third grade or second grade, I started playing football. But I was like a huge into soccer was my favorite sport. Actually, I take that back. Basketball was my favorite sport, but I was the best at soccer. So I was a decent basketball player when I was younger, but a lot better soccer player. So that was what I spent most of my time on. When my parents decided that I needed to be tougher on the soccer field and I wasn't pushing people around enough. So they were like, you know what, we're going to have you play football and see if you can get a little bit tougher. So I played receiver when I was first joined the second grade team, competitive travel league team. And came time for the first game, and we didn't have a kicker yet. So we had kicker tryouts, and I was just naturally the best at it, better than everyone else. And kind of as that season went on, my parents were like, well, there's nobody else in this league that's kicking it as far as you. Maybe we can, give you a couple take you to somebody, give you a couple lessons and see if you can be a little bit better and help your team out. Because I mean, at that point, there was no thought of I was going to be a kicker. It was all of I'm going to be a soccer player and I'm going to be a little bit tougher playing football. And, I'm the kicker on the football team. So, it's just because I'm what I'm best at. So I got a couple lessons, and every time I went to a lesson, there'd be college kids there, high school kids there, and everybody was like oohing and on about, how far I could kick it as a second and third grader. And it kind of turned to, as a couple years, went by, that, this might be something that I'm really good at. And a lot, most kickers don't really start kicking until they're in 9th, 10th grade.
Yeah.
Well, I started so young that, when I was in 6th and 7th grade, I was being able to compete with some of these high school kids. So it was kind of at that moment where we kind of decided like this is probably going to be what I'm going to be doing sport wise, and kind of put all my focus into it. So that's kind of how I got into kicking.
If you had any recommendations for parents that want to see if their kids got a talent or teach them a new skill, I mean, because it's such a specialized skill. Any recommendations, any advice you would give parents that want to sort of nurture their kids' soccer or football?
Yeah, I think like right as the time that we live in today, I mean, there's so many like videos and stuff online of like different skills and techniques and like super in depth. When I first started kicking, they were selling like these CDs and stuff of like trying to teach my parents and my dad like how to teach me how to kick, and he would load them into his computer, and it'd be this hour-long video that you can't really skip. You kind of have to watch the whole thing. Well, now they have like so many videos on YouTube or whatever platform where you can kind of handpick on what you want, and the more views usually the better the content. I think our long snapper Nealon, I'm pretty sure how he got into snapping was he pretty much taught himself on YouTube.
Yep.
How to snap. So I would say like if you want your kid to be like specialized in something. It's a lot easier now than I think it was like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. All right, let's grab another question here from one of our members. This one coming to us from Jennifer. What's your pre-kick thought process? That's a good one.
Yeah, so honestly, I don't really think about anything at all. Like nothing is going into my brain as soon as I run onto the field. I kind of just block out the noise, block out all the thoughts, and just kind of trust in my preparation. I think when you start thinking a little bit too much, you can kind of get into your own head. So I try to rely on like all the preparation I've done throughout my whole life, and especially like throughout the week. Every practice, every kick I have in practice, I take it just like a game. Try to treat every kick I have on the practice field just like a game, so that way, when I go into a game, I can just let my muscle memory take over, and I don't really have to think about anything.
If you could teach that skill set, well, I think you could make some money out for those of us who play golf, who get on the tee and have like a million different swing thoughts in our head. Because you're right. Once you start overthinking, it becomes an issue, right?
Yeah, I'm not too good at doing that myself on the golf course either. So I get that too, but yeah.
All right, so I understand. We got one coming in live from Robbie. Robbie Carpenter wants to know. This is a good one too. What is your greatest memory of playing at Alabama?
It's hard to kind of put my finger on one. I think like earlier in my career, when we won the national championship my sophomore year, I was kind of like, oh, so this is kind of how it's going to be. We're going to compete for a national championship year in and year out. And I think I kind of not really took it for granted, but I just didn't really appreciate like how important that was and how much we achieved that year. So looking back, like towards the end of my career, that's by far my favorite memory. Even though it was a COVID season and like the fans weren't, at the stadium at the game in Miami, it was still like so cool to be able to like be on the, in front of everybody and playing for a national championship and to win the way that we did, and kind of how that whole season went. That season was like my favorite season by far.
What has it been like? Because I'm not going to call it stardom, but your popularity has taken on a life of its own. I mean, if you're there on the field during warm-ups, pregame introductions, and they go through and list the players that are starting, and there are certain players that get louder ovations than others, and you're one of the loudest. Have you noticed that? And is it weird that you're one of the most popular players on the team as a kicker?
Yeah, I noticed it. A lot of our other specialists will kind of like, they'll kind of get annoyed because every time they say the specialists, like, oh, here we go again, because they don't get as much love. But I really appreciate all the fan support. It's awesome. I remember when I was getting recruited here, when they would announce J.K. Scott's name, like the fans would go berserk, probably even louder than it was for me, because the fans just love J.K. and how great of a punter he was and how great of a kid he was. So it's really cool to see like our fans support us as players.
Yeah, it really is cool, and that just they support you and everything that you've given this program, including people don't know this coming back for another year. Let's grab another question here from one of our members. Michael wants to know, what is your pregame routine like? And also, do you get yourself hyped up musically or try to keep it low key?
Yeah, so going all the way back to like Friday nights, I guess is kind of when my routine starts. Normally we'll have, depending on if we're at home or away, we'll have a meeting at, in the afternoon or whatever. We'll have a walkthrough, and then we'll go to the hotel, eat dinner. And then after dinner, that's kind of like when I start really preparing myself for a game. First of all, while everybody else has meetings, they have to meet about scheme and formations and film and all that kind of stuff. Well, us as specialists, we don't really have to meet about any of that kind of stuff. So me or James will bring our PlayStation into the hotel, and we'll kind of just play FIFA or Madden or whatever, and we'll just play all night, just being boys, not really, stressing ourselves out about the game, just having fun until it's pretty much time to go to bed. So I think that's something that's kind of cool that we've incorporated, just to, kind of keep our mind off the game, but also, have a good time together and continue to grow our bond. But we'll have, different players will come in and, hang out and play or whatever. We have a good time. And then when it's time to go to sleep, turn it off. And I do a lot of like mental preparation. So I'll just lay in my bed, close my eyes, and just imagine me, making kicks from different spots. Kind of, as we've had a lot of good speakers since I've been here, and a lot of them have brought up like studies that have shown that, with basketball players or whatever, that, people who can imagine themselves making free throws or whatever have done it at a better rate than those who haven't. So I really started incorporating that like my sophomore year. And then as soon as we wake up, we go out, ready, eat breakfast, whatever. As soon as we get to the field, I go around to different spots on the field, just pick my target line, what I'm going to pick as my spot that I'm aiming at on the field, through the uprights, and then imagine the ball going through. And then, I'll do like my kick and warm up or whatever. But that's kind of like my pregame preparation. But as far when it comes to music, I try to get myself like hyped up as much as possible. I feel like I play better when I'm like that. I try to play with a little bit of like emotion. I don't like to be like, the quiet kid on the sideline and, having my head down all the time. I try to, cheer my teammates on as much as possible, getting into the game, yelling and screaming. I like doing all that because I feel like it gets my adrenaline up so I can kick the ball further, kick the ball better. But then when it's time to go out on the field, just taking a couple of deep breaths, getting that adrenaline back down. But I feel like when I'm super hyped up, it makes me play better.
So I wanted to ask you one question, and you and I have talked previously about this, about how much can your range change during a game based on conditions?
Yeah, it can change a lot. Wind is, I guess, probably the biggest factor. Rain doesn't really do too much of a factor. It might shorten it by a couple yards, just because you're trying to be careful of how hard you plant. Slipping can become an issue, and if you slip, I mean, it's over. But yeah, wind. For the most part, that's what I'm checking. Like Friday, Saturday morning, as soon as we get to the game, I'm trying to see how heavy the wind is on my phone on the weather app, and then as soon as we get into the stadium, like, is that matching up what I saw? Which way is it blowing? And throughout the game, the wind can change, especially in these big stadiums. The wind can swirl a lot. Usually, it's a lot easier to kick in windy stadiums when the stadiums are smaller, because the wind can get in and then get out at a certain point. So it's usually only going one way the whole game, especially if there's like an open end on one way, then it's just going to be blowing one way the entire game. But the bigger stadiums is when it gets tricky because the wind finds a way in and then it can't get out. So it just sits there and kind of swirls the whole game. But it can definitely change. Like, sometimes I think we were playing A&M's is the last 2 times we played there. It'll flip just like every 5 to 10 minutes. And so you're just kind of going back and forth on how far, what's the kick line, you got to kind of stay up to date with, Coach Hutzler, so he can tell Coach Saban, all right, how far can we kick and that kind of thing. But it definitely is a big deal.
Yeah, it's for those of us who've never done it, we don't even think about those things that are you're thinking about every minute. Let's go to another question here. This one coming from David. How long do you kick during the week when practice is going on?
Yeah, so the way we do our schedule, Coach Saban has always done it this way. On Mondays, we'll do all phases of special teams. So we'll kick off, we'll punt, hit field goals, all those good things. I'll only do field goals on Mondays. I don't feel like kickoffs is like the biggest like strain on your leg out of any of the 3. And so I only kick off once a week on Wednesdays, just to keep my leg fresh. Because if my freshman year when I started out doing field goals, punting, and kickoffs, and was pretty much doing it all during the week. I kicked off 4 times during the week. I punted 3 times. I kicked 3 times. Ended up getting hurt like the fourth game or something like that, and then tried to come back and got hurt again at the end of the year. And so after that, Coach Saban was like, we really need to monitor how much you're kicking during the week so this doesn't happen again. So I pretty much only punt on Thursdays now because I'm the backup punter on the road and at home. But it's only a couple reps. I'll hit field goals on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So I'll still hit field goals 3 times a week. And then I only kick off on Wednesdays. So that's kind of my schedule throughout the week. Like Tuesdays, I'm not kicking the ball at all. So I go into the weight room. I do a lot of like flexibility, core work, all sorts of like stretching and like strength movements and lower back exercise and stuff to try to keep all my little tiny muscles in my body up to date and strong. But other than that, that's kind of my schedule.
Yeah, we'll never forget when you had to come in an emergency punter this year. A lot of fans were hoping that you did not get hurt. Let's go to another question here. This one coming from Dana. have you always been an Alabama fan, which is a very key question this week.
Yeah, so I actually did not like Alabama growing up. My dad's from the Florida area, Panhandle area, so he was a big time Florida fan. My mom was an Alabama fan. My mom's grandparents and mom's side of the family are Alabama fans, but when they got married, my dad kind of converted her to being a Florida fan. So I was a Florida Big Tim Tebow fan growing up. And a lot of my buddies in Hoover were Alabama fans, and I was just like, this team always wins. If you're not an Alabama fan, people don't like Alabama. So that was kind of me growing up. And then there was a spurt where I went for Clemson. My sister actually went to Auburn. And then when I kind of got into high school, I never thought I would come to Alabama. But when I got into high school, I kind of was just like, you know what? I'm going to stop going for a team because I know I'm probably going to have a chance to play football somewhere, and I don't really want that to impact my decision. So I stopped going for a team, and Alabama started showing interest in me, and I just fell in love with like the way how much they win, their process, and all the good things that make Alabama great. Fell in love with the coaching staff. Fell in love with how close it was being at home. Fell in love with the championship, mentality and the way that they develop players. So. And now I'm an Alabama fan for life, but it wasn't always that way.
I got to ask you, did it factor in at all? Because we sort of joke, and it's a running joke on the internet, that Alabama for a long time they could do everything as good or better than anyone in the country except kicking. Were you aware of sort of that reputation? And you've sort of had, since you've been there, that we don't hear a lot of that anymore.
Yeah, well, so a lot of my friends who actually are going to be at the game this weekend are Alabama fans, and they would always like nag at me and like, to go to Alabama, like we can never find a kicker, blah blah blah. And that's no disrespect to those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's just kind of I never thought that those guys were bad by any means. I mean, if you look at their numbers, they're actually statistically, they're good. They're good kickers. But when it got to where am I going with this? What was the question again?
Well, you're talking about your friends sort of hoping you would go to Alabama because Alabama.
Oh, yeah. So that kind of came to like a point where everybody, when I committed here, everybody was kind of like, you're throwing your career away. Like, why would you go there? Kickers don't play good there or whatever. And it kind of became like a motivational factor for me. Like, all right, well, if you guys don't think I can do this, y'all think there's a curse or whatever, all these people say there's a curse, kicking curse or whatever. Like, you're going to come and see that when I play here that there's not a curse anymore. So that was kind of like my mindset of like, it just motivated me, and it helped, because I would, if there was nights where I didn't want to go kick, and I was like, look, all these people are going to be saying this about you when you get there. What are you going to do about it? So that was kind of like my mindset about it.
Awesome answer. Let's grab another question here. This one coming to us from Bobby. Do you aim at a specific spot between the posts or just the middle line?
So usually like in the bigger stadiums, it's kind of easy to pick a target. I pick out a specific spot normally, and like whether it's someone sitting behind the uprights wearing like a neon green shirt, or there's like a big pole at the top of the stadium that's right down the uprights. Literally, it can be anything. It can be like a cup or whatever I can find. Normally in pregame, I try to pick those things out, whether it's like a certain type of beam or something that's in the stadium or a letter that's up on the rafters. But if I can't find one of those that's like right in the middle where I want to aim, then I'll pick out like a person's like shirt or something like that. Definitely a specific spot. But even if I can't find anything, I'll just like imagine like a big beam in the middle of the uprights and aim at that. But I'm always aiming at a specific spot.
Let's grab through a few more questions here in our final moments with Will Reichard. David wants to know, are there any kickers that you looked up to or inspired you to be great?
Justin Tucker is my favorite kicker just because, he's going to be when he retires, he's going to be the best of all time. Just the accuracy that he kicks with. I mean, everybody knows him for being like one of the biggest leg kickers because of how many 60-plus yard field goals. But in my mind, he's one of the most accurate kickers and then one of the most clutch kickers that we've ever seen. And that's something that I aspire to be. I care a lot more about accuracy and a lot more about being able to be clutch than I do about long distance, because you're only going to be able to hit so many from 60 plus or whatever from distance, but are you going to be able to perform in the big time moments? Are you going to be able to be consistent from 45 yards and end? That's what I care about a lot more than any other stat. So for him, to kind of have those things. He's definitely the one that I looked up to the most.
All right, the next one here is from Nick. Wants to know, what's the highest pressure kick you've experienced?
I'd say either the Iron Bowl from 2021, where I had a field goal in double overtime. If I missed, the game was over. That was a big one. And then Texas last year, the game-winning kick. If I missed that kick, the game's over. Those are definitely the highest two pressure kicks I've experienced, just because, if I don't make those kicks, the game's over, and there's nothing we can do about it. So those were definitely the two highest.
And I don't know if people know this. You and I have talked about this, Will, but in Jordan Hare, they had, they got that jumbotron, and so you go out there and your face is on that jumbotron. I mean, they zoomed in on you before the kick, then they ice you, and then they zoom in on you again. So that was unbelievable pressure kick. Let's grab another question here. This one from Wayne. How do you feel your dad's passing has changed your outlook on life or influenced your point of view?
Yeah, I think like as a little kid, like you always think that your parents are always going to be there. I grew up, 15 great years of having my mom and my dad in my life. They were great parents. And then my dad passed away when I was a freshman in high school. And I think like since then, I've kind of been able to kind of cherish the people that are close in my life, because, when you're that young, and you're brought up so well and you have such a great support system, you never really think that, that stuff's going to go away. So I think since then I've really been able to always cherish, all my friends that are close to me, all my family that's close to me, and just really appreciate them like being there more than anything else, and not just taking it for granted.
I think we got two more, and we'll get you out of here. The next one up, this was, let's see. Jimmy wants to know, is there anything in life better than a rib-plated Archibalds?
Yes, I would say my wife's bundt cake, her chocolate cake that she makes, is better than a rib-plated Archibalds. She makes really good food. She spoils me, actually. She learned from her grandmother and her mom. They're all really good cooks, and she, whenever we don't eat at the facility, the facility gives us dinner or whatever, but whenever I don't eat there, she always makes me really good food and keeps me not hungry.
I want to. People may not know this, and you're not the type to go about bragging about yourself, but I know you're involved in a program helping elementary school kids, and you sort of mentor them. Tell us a little bit about the program you're involved with.
Yeah, so it's called Reading Allies, and a couple other players on our team are involved with it too. Basically, every single Tuesday at 9:00, we go meet at this elementary school, and we all sit at a desk, and we have our own, elementary school kid, just one-on-one, and every single week, the Reading Allies program kind of tells us what to go through with them, whether that's, helping them on sentence structure or pronouncing words or reading books. And we sit down for 30 to 45 minutes and just kind of go through the lesson plan with them, and kind of act like a big brother to them, because a lot of the kids that we deal with, not necessarily come up with the best upbringing. So that's something that, like, when I first started doing it, I didn't know how much of an impact it would make on me. It makes my morning every single Tuesday morning to be able to go and see those kids and kind of interact with them and put a smile on my face. So I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to do that.
Awesome. That's the kind of story that you don't hear much about that should be getting a ton of attention when these student athletes give of their own time selflessly to help our youth. Will, thanks so much for this time this week, and hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and we're going to be rooting for you on Saturday.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. That was Will Reichard. I think he's 14 points away from being the NCAA's all-time leading scorer. 14 points away from not just Alabama's. He's already had that record. Not even the SEC. He's already got that. 14 away from being the NCAA's all-time leading scorer at a position where it was a joke 10 years ago that Alabama field goal kickers could not make kicks, and he's made his share and more. So our thanks to Will Reichard. Again, quick plug, make sure you're following us on social, and on our socials, you can read all about the details of our holiday giveaways. It's from running from Black Friday this Friday all the way through December 17th. Just a different day, a different prize every single day for those members who are currently members of Yale, Alabama, and for those new members. And if you refer someone, make sure they write your name down on the referral. You get an extra entry for these prizes. So thanks again to Will Reichard. I hope everyone out there has a wonderful Thanksgiving, a lot of food on your plate, and you're surrounded by the people that you love. And I hope that you get to get to watch the Iron Bowl on Saturday. Our thanks again to Will Reichard. Until next week, I'm Aaron Suttles for Yale, Alabama.